Hey everyone, it's Tim here again, and you're listening to episode 14 of the Black Swan Podcast. This is actually our first COVID-19 shutdown produced episode. I'm currently recording from the BSP home studio and will be handling all production responsibilities as Jamel and Nathan are at their own homes playing Call of Duty or watching Disney Plus or something, I don't know. So this interview with Dan Smithiger was recorded right before our official shutdown and right after Southern Illinois University closed due to the pandemic. Since that time, we've also canceled the 2020 Percussion Ensemble Showcase and replaced with a snare drum solo competition for both U.S. high school and college level percussionists. Entry deadline is April 30th, and full participation details can be found on our website. And if I remember, I'll try to throw that link in our show notes. We thought this would be a great opportunity to keep students motivated, inspired, and hopefully practicing during some mandatory time off. Also wanted to quickly plug some of the educational resources we have available on our website. We have a full collection of video content, including lessons, instructional videos, and more from various BSP artists and endorsers. We also have an extensive library of articles written by Black Swamp artists and educators. Dan Smithiger alone has contributed almost 70 articles over the last 10 years. These can all be downloaded and viewed from the educational page on our website. Topics range from instrument tutorials to composer interviews, pedagogy topics. There's a lot to dig into as you find yourself with some extra time on your hands over the next few weeks. And I suppose it's time we now dig into my conversation with Dan. Hey, Dan.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Doing
Good. There's a lot going on in the world right now, so I appreciate you. I know your schedule is crazy with your school lack of activity right now. So I appreciate you still kind of taking time to call in and have a chat with us.
Yeah, I think this is the only activity going on in this building right now. With you.
Okay, so it was convenient then.
Yes.
Are you? Yes. Okay, feel free to jump in anytime, Dan. You know, this is an open conversation here. Just it's a real relaxed thing. So,
Okay.
So before we get to the main topic, which is the Black Swamp Percussion Ensemble Showcase, I want to get just a little bit of background from you, sort of how you got started in percussion and what, like, if there was an initial spark or catalyst for you getting involved in music and percussion specifically.
Well, that is an interesting question. About 300 years ago, when I was 6 or 7,
right,
my parents got me lessons. I think I was living in Casa Grande, Arizona at the time, and I believe a student from the University of Arizona, or who lived in Casa Grande, who was a former U of A student, came to give me lessons. And I don't remember that person's name, but I played on a practice pad with and a drum at that time.
They were super influential then. They made an enormous impact on your career.
Yes.
There was this guy, and he was a student, and you took lessons from him.
He was so influential that I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
And then we moved, and then I had another set of lessons with someone. We moved to Flagstaff, and I ended up having lessons with someone at the university there. And so influential, I do not remember that person's name. Mm-hmm. But so I had taken lessons for a couple years when I was younger, about 300 and some odd years ago. And then I took a couple years where I wasn't able to, and then got back into the school music program around 4th grade or 5th grade, and kind of did that route with being involved in band and such. And I just continued doing that, and I liked it. Clearly, I liked it. So that was that's where I started, and that's kind of how it evolved, at least in the early part of when I was younger. And then, of course, the typical, I would say typical, but the being involved in marching band, high school band,
Sure.
and other things, doing solo ensemble, all state, that kind of stuff. I was able to do those things and
Yeah.
yada yada yada.
So there was not a specific sort of trigger. You didn't. It wasn't the Beatles on Ed Sullivan or anything like that. That sort of
No,
led you down this path.
no, I'm not that old. No,
You said
of course I
300
just said
years.
300 years. So yes,
Right.
it was. It was no, it wasn't a specific band or event or a specific person or thing. Something someone said. I just kind of did it, and I liked doing it, and kept doing it.
Right. And then you mentioned Arizona. I guess I didn't realize you were from Arizona, and I knew you had a lot of connections there. I thought it was just ultimately university where you studied, but you were raised
Yes,
in Arizona.
actually, after I was adopted, I was raised in Arizona,
Well, okay.
and I lived there from 4 months old to when I moved in 2004. So,
Right.
but I'd gone to schools in different parts of Flagstaff, to Phoenix, and Casa Grande, and Tucson, all over
Okay.
that place. So,
Huh. And you were a student of Steve Hemphill's, is that right? In
yes,
University of
my
Northern Arizona?
Northern Arizona University. That's
Oh,
correct.
jeez. Okay. Right.
I started in the fall of 1990, and Steve Hempill arrived in the fall of 1991. I actually had a teacher prior to Steve. His
Mhm.
name was Kirk Sharp.
Oh, you remember
And
his name. That's good.
yeah, well, I was older, yes.
Okay.
And and then Steve arrived in the next year. So
Right. Cool. Yeah. Just side note, Steve, I've had the pleasure to meet him several times, and through your Percussion Institute in Southern Illinois, and at PASIC and stuff. All around if you're listening, Steve, all around one of the nicest, coolest guys I've ever met. Just like,
and I'm sure he is listening.
yeah. Because really, the point of this conversation is to talk about the Percussion Ensemble Showcase, which, for those of you who don't know, we've been doing 10 plus years, I think, 10 or more years, and was, the
I
showcase.
think this is the 11th year.
Okay. So that is 10 plus, right? 10 plus 1, I guess, years. And was really an idea that you brought to me, you brought to Black Swan Percussion, as far as a formal video competition. And it started as an ensemble competition, and has grown into a couple different ensemble divisions and then a solo division. So I just wanted to kind of unpack that a little bit and see, what your inspiration was for that, because I thought it was a really great idea, and it's grown over the last 10 plus years, apparently 11 years. And so let's start there. What was your thought process in a program like that?
It kind of combined my public school teaching from when I was high school band director, and then when I was in graduate school at the University of Arizona, I arranged 2 mass steel band programs for the Arizona State Percussive Art Society spring concerts, and
Okay.
they were these Friday night concerts that really kicked off these ASPAS, 2002 and 2003, and it was networking. It was getting these high school students steel band programs all together and playing for each other. Essentially, that was it. And so when we looked at this Percussion Ensemble Showcase back in 08, 09, when I was thinking about it in 08, and I think we launched it in 09, 2010, I was thinking it'd be neat to somehow get different ensembles involved in what we now call a showcase, and
Right.
playing, and for everybody to be visible to each other and everybody to see each other. And it wouldn't probably be practical to have everybody fly in and do it, but we had this online thing, this internet thing was going on, so it kind of took that route, and
Sure.
that's kind of where it got started. The first of when we did these ASPADS things, they weren't competitions, but they were showcases. They were we got to see each other play.
Right.
So it kind of
Sorry,
started there.
ASPAS. That's the
Arizona PAS.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So, and it's evolved to, and how it's grown has been pretty neat. It's kind of gone a little more than and beyond what I thought it would go on to be. And many ensembles across the United States submit, from all different coasts to everywhere, and the repertoire has been really great. So I think it's done wonderfully.
Yeah, and sort of before I do have some questions about the growth specifically, but what I kind of hear you saying is like at that time, obviously you can't get all these ensembles in one place in one location, and have a competition, I guess, and have things judged from across the country. But obviously with the dawn of the internet and the ease of technology these days, like, and I mean, even within the span of the competition, like things have progressed so much, like just the quality of recording, audio and visual. But so when we started, it was relatively easy to hold a competition where people could submit a video and get it on YouTube and then have that video judged, and go from there. And obviously there's a large, and maybe we'll touch on this in a bit, like educational aspect to it also. I think a lot of participants participate because they will get feedback from judges, and they'll get critiqued, and they'll get sort of information that they can pass along to the students, or in the solos division, just take to their practice room and apply some of that. So well, okay, so growth, like, we went from the first year having 3 ensembles participate to having close to 30 in the last couple years, and that's both large and small. Like, what do you kind of attribute that to? Do you think there's anything that specifically has kind of helped this grow?
Well, I think when you see when other directors see programs doing things pretty well, they want to be involved. I think there's an element of quote unquote competition, a little bit of that into this showcase, which is which is a competition in some ways, because you have a first and a second place and a first and a second place in different divisions, which happened as we got larger, or as time has gone on and we've got more participants. I think people like the idea of playing for each other and to somewhat be evaluated by other people, just to, if anything else, it validates, what you're doing as a teacher. Mm-hmm. And for anything else, your students, it's all student centered. So students can see other groups do well, and they can see them doing well, and, and they really enjoy it. So that's kind of what I attribute it to, if that makes any sense. It's just everybody kind of wants to do it. And
yeah. I mean, I think there's
win a Black Swamp Snare Drum.
Yes, among other things. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think initially it was just a really good idea, and it did take a couple years, I think, to get the numbers up. I think, like I said, first year was like 3, and then maybe like kind of 5 or 6 ensembles, and then I just feel like one year, like, it really jumped up. So I think, once the visibility of it, like we were saying, like, people, we would post, winners, first, second, placements, online, and help promote it, and there's just kind of more buzz and more interest in it. And then go ahead.
There is, I know, because in one of my rooms down in the basement, I've got filing cabinets full of scores and DVDs and CDs or DVDs of, because when we did it back then in 2009, 2010, that's how they submitted. So I have all of that stuff, and there's just scores, and there's just so much, so many entries down there.
Right.
So
yeah, I totally forgot. Like the first several years, ensembles had to
3,
submit
Yep,
Three
they'd submit
DVDs,
three
yeah.
scores, three
Right.
DVDs,
Yeah.
and then we got them. I got them, and then I would mail them out to the other judges. And I couldn't tell you. I can't remember off the top of my head which judges we hired those first few
Right.
years, and then they would evaluate it, and then we went to even a more online way of doing it in the last few years. But those early years, Tim, the early
Yes.
years, we did it that way.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm opening up a Google Doc right now. The first years. Well, no, wait. Never mind. I think you. Oh, Christopher Dean. You
Yes,
yourself, Christopher
Christy.
Dean, and then I actually judged. I think the first 3 years of the competition.
Yeah, there you
And
put that on your resume.
yeah, felt totally unqualified, and yeah. So you,
Yeah, I think
Christopher.
we had Christopher Dean. Yeah, was that the first year? Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember, I remember Joe Gramley being one of the judges in the first few years. I remember
Yep.
Meehan Perkins were
Yep.
part of the judging crew in the first few years. I remember in the first year of the solo multiple percussion competition, it was Morris Poulter and I.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, second year was Meehan Perkins duo, and then Gramley, Brian Zader was involved, and
Zader,
Morris
yes.
Poulter was involved that year, and then I
As
think
we're
the
dropping names.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Black Swamp names, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's part of it. Yes, the judges are Black Swamp artists and educators. So it's we're involving our community of supporters here, and I think that's part of it, and that's I think been part of the draw too. And so
Next week on Black Swamp Percussion's self-serving podcast.
it's not too gratuitous. I don't feel too guilty about it. So. Okay, so it's grown. Like what? So the last several years of growth has also seen like growth in like quality of participation and like quality of performance. You know what? I think we talked about this on actually on a prior podcast. What are there any like common threads or anything you see between these ensembles that have been successful in the showcase?
I think definitely when you look at all of these really wonderful performances that are submitted, there's a lot of the ensembles they're all playing well. Their musical components are top notch. The rhythmic clarity, their phrasing, their sound quality, their implements, the repertoire is great, of course, and then how they're executing. There's a lot of similarities with those musical elements that I just described. I think that in the last few years, I know one thing that jumped out in the last 4 to 5 years, is that the recording quality with all of these superior submissions
Devices?
it's gotten better.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of clear. You can hear some very clear musical things with the microphones they're using, and the camera is really nice. Really nice. The cameras are they're great. They've got multiple angles,
Right.
so they're putting a lot of time into the recording quality, in as much as they are preparing their students, or in the solo percussion case, as much as they are preparing the piece.
So the production value has gone up certainly
Quite a
over the
bit,
last couple years. Yeah.
Quite a bit, yes. So it's kind of, as this has evolved, it's turning into some really neat stuff, and it will be interesting to see how it goes in the next 10 years.
Do you think there's any like composition wise or like performance specific pieces, or has there been any like continuity there as far as like what types of pieces are playing?
That's an interesting question. There are
Good.
sometimes
It was literally off the
trends.
top of my head there. I just thought of it right now. I didn't have that pre-composed. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. There are trends. Sometimes you'll see the Prelude to Paradise came in a few years in a row. You'll see some stuff by Dave Hall that come in.
Right, he's a name that jumped to mind.
And I'm not trying to, but you'll see different compositions that will come in. It will be kind of in for 2 or 3 years, and you'll see that you see that in the high school ones because this is a high school showcase, and usually you see that in the university route too. You see things that just come in and as well. But back to the I remember the Septet by Dwayne Rice came in at a couple different years.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the solo multiple percussion contest, you always see a Xenakis Rebonds B. You see one time we saw Safa, or a couple different years we saw Safa. You see a lot of great pieces. So Anvil Chorus seems to be coming back.
Right.
Every couple years. So.
And I mean, obviously, percussion literature is relatively new, but to me, it seemed like the ensemble pieces specifically are like more like new compositions, like in the last couple of years. Even is that safe to say? Am I safe saying that?
No, you're definitely safe in saying that. And it's funny because sometimes you'll see those. Many times you'll see those pieces. Sometimes you'll see those pieces at PASIC for ensembles that were chosen who have to submit almost a year, before they were playing this stuff, and it's around. You see that stuff at PASIC, and you see it at the showcase. So.
Yeah, cool. What do you think as far as education? Like, have you seen any effect on education from the showcase? I know that's not a question's not totally clear, I guess, but
you know what? There's the biggest thing, the best comment I can make is that there's just a raised general awareness of what everybody is doing, and it's around the globe. It's not just around the United States. It's I get comments from once in a while. I get comments from someone in Europe or someone in China or someone in another country that will say, "Hey, we really like that showcase. We really like that piece." Or you'll see comments on the YouTube channel when you see that from from Brazil or from Mexico or from wherever. So I think the awareness of what this showcase has brought, not only here but around the world, is pretty great, and all those musical qualities, and so it has gotten everybody's just getting better in doing what we do.
Right, and I think that's a good point, Dan, because it is a U.S. Only competition at this point, and I am thinking of, okay, what does the future look like? And so opening this up to more of an international level is definitely a possibility in the future. I mean, are there any other directions you see the showcase going?
No, I do think that opening up, being more of a global, serving more of the globe, would be a very interesting way to do it. And connect us even more together. So.
Yeah, kumbaya. Well, I think that kind of covers the showcase. I mean, I do want to definitely throw a shout out to our judges this year. Jim Campbell and Josh Jones are judging the ensemble divisions, and then yourself and Julia Licata are judging the solo divisions.
Yes. Very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean those. I agree. I'm looking forward to it also, as well, Dan. So there are a few other things I want to kind of talk to you about, and
okay.
One is, and we can not talk about this if you want to, but it's mostly Jamel's request.
Oh.
Okay. Have you dabbled, Dan, in any type of comedy setting?
Me?
Yeah. In like
when I was an undergrad, I did stand up.
Get out.
It wasn't good. I never said it was good. But I did two, I wouldn't call them shows. I'd call them, there were two venues there were people there.
Okay. Was it in your house?
No.
Like, was it in your living room? Okay.
No.
It was, okay. It was a legitimate
One was in Flagstaff and one was in San Diego.
Okay. San Diego? Holy cow. So how and why?
Well, there was a professor at Northern Arizona University whose name I will not mention,
Okay,
but
because you don't
he
remember
thought,
it. That's fine.
no, I remember it. He's great, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the person is great,
Hmm.
and they thought that I was an interesting, funny person, so
Right.
they had me try a stand-up thing in it was after a marching band event at a pizza place,
Right.
and so I had to prepare some material for that. And then it didn't stop there. When the marching band went to San Diego,
Okay.
I was asked to do it again.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Different material, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And it wasn't anything you wanted to pursue, obviously, or you.
Well, I don't know that it was interesting. I don't know that I'm
Mhm.
the best at it, but
Right.
I was certainly. You mean pursue as a career, like a Jerry Seinfeld kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna be the next.
If
Seinfeld.
if I knew that it would lead me to being worth $950 million, which is what I think he is worth right now,
We would not
then
be on the phone right now.
at least not for that. So,
Right.
or not for this. I don't know what that means, but you know what I mean. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, you can blame Jamel for me digging
Okay.
into that
All right.
subject.
I didn't expect that question, but yes.
Yeah, sorry. And maybe you don't expect this one either. On
Good.
our website, we
Mhm.
do have a page of educational resources.
I've heard about that.
Okay, and part of that are um, articles, like written articles that our artists and educators have contributed, and you alone have contributed. I mean, it's been a couple of years, which is uh, fine. But you, uh, y-
What you're trying to say is, Dan, how about you stop being lazy and write something?
no. That's like the complete opposite of what I'm
Or
saying.
you're
I'm
saying,
trying to
please
right
don't
now.
ever send us anything.
I'm right now. I'm stalling because I'm trying to get to the webpage. You alone have like, I'm just scrolling through here. Over 60, yeah, like 67, 68, and some additional articles on our website. And at one point you were submitting one a month. I mean, some of them
Yes.
are several years old, but I just kind of wanted to talk about that, partially to plug the website
Yeah.
www.blackswamp.com/educational-articles. But yeah, you were kind of pumping them out at one point. Like, what is there an interest, obviously, on your end of sort of this kind of collegiate or educational kind of writing or sharing some of this
Yes.
knowledge? Like, how did that come about?
It came about where I was submitting for percussive notes back in about 2007, 2008. And I remember a person in the PAS who said, if you are passionate about something, write about it.
Right.
And, it's kind of as simple as that. And so I thought, well, I'm passionate about A, B, C, D, E, these kind of things. So I submitted a couple articles to PAS, and I got turned down for some, but then a couple were accepted, and then I thought, well, I'll keep doing this. So
Right.
I just kept on that thought for those, 6 or 7 or 8 years that I was, or whatever it was, where I was submitting more consistently. That I thought, oh, this is a topic that I think is interesting, and I think maybe we can go somewhere with. So I just kept doing that, and so I was published with Percussion Notes with PAS, and then of course with Black Swamp. So
Right. And I'm scrolling through the various articles. I mean, obviously there's some like method stuff, playing snare drum, playing crash cymbals,
Yeah.
tambourine, but then you kind of dig into composers,
Yeah.
Joel Morris. Sorry,
And
I'm
no,
scrolling.
and with that
Alfred
piece, I was
Music.
doing the Urukai for a
Right.
couple for a concert or so, and so you try to there's breadth and then there's depth, and I tried
Right.
to explore both of those. To some
You don't know. There's the social learning theory, so like more
Education.
pedagogical,
Yeah.
more teaching type stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Um, conductor notes, stick control, panorama. So, there's, pan stuff, vibraphone, third construction. I mean, I'm not going to name every single one. I can, if you want me to, I can keep going through here.
No, keep going.
Okay.
Oh, no, actually, don't keep going. It's fine.
Okay. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of unpack that a little bit. And
Well, it goes back to what I said, Tim. It was that I think that I was pretty passionate about that stuff, teaching it and doing it, because when you're doing it.
Right.
So I thought, well, let me write about it, and that's kind of how I started, and that's kind of where it went. And
yeah. No, I think it's great, and I appreciate all the contributions, and we still have them up online. I think it partially just, there's so many more mediums now, like, video stuff, and obviously podcasting, what we're doing and things, and there's kind of more
podcasting.
Yeah, you should think about it, Dan. You should think about podcasting. Yeah, we'll go Google it. There's just more ways to kind of disseminate information. So, so I just wanted to talk about that a bit, and we did. So thank you. So you were passionate or are passionate about percussion and performance and education.
Yep.
What do you? I know you have like 50 cats at home. Is there anything else? You have any other hobbies or interests? Things you like to do?
There. Okay.
You're like a cat lady, man. Is that not a thing? Okay. What else do you do, Dan? What do you do during the day when you're not teaching?
I don't really have any hobbies or other interests. I just do this, and I love doing it.
Right.
I don't, I got to eat, but people do that, so that's not really a hobby or an interest. One time I went skydiving.
Get out.
Yeah.
Where? In Illinois?
No,
it doesn't matter where, but that's cool. That's impressive. That's one thing I don't think I could ever do, is jump out of an airplane.
Well, I don't have any plans to do it again anytime soon.
Okay.
It was in 2002.
You didn't enjoy it?
It was an experience.
That was very PC.
No, it was it was an experience, and you sit and watch the video for legal reasons.
Okay.
And then you walk into the plane, and you're watching them roll up the parachutes. And one person said, "Dan, you don't want to piss those people off, because it's a parachute, and if it doesn't,
Yeah.
So you get on the plane and you think, oh, this is kind of neat, kind of going for a little joyride, and then you're sitting there and you don't. What you realize is when the door opens and your friends start, jumping out, you think, I'm not getting off this plane until I'm, pushed out, and that's kind of when the reality. And then you go and you jump and you're falling down to the earth at 450 feet a second or something, whatever it is like that,
Was it tandem or were you alone?
Yeah, the first one is a tandem.
Right.
So, and you have the altimeter on your wrist, and if you don't pull it if you don't pull the chute between 5,000 and 6,000, or maybe it was 5,500 feet or 6,000 feet, then the person, he pulls it, because,
Do you remember his name?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't even think I ever got his name.
Oh, okay.
But,
so it's not.
But when I was 6 or 7, I probably got the name of the teacher that with whom I studied, but I couldn't remember that.
That's right. So skydiving, but that's not necessarily a hobby. And then you have cats.
Correct.
I would consider cats a hobby. I mean, you got to.
Well, but people who have animals, would they necessarily say that having animals is their hobby?
No.
I have kids. No. That's my hobby. I don't.
It doesn't feel like a hobby. It's like it's a job.
I don't have kids, but
yeah. Okay. What do a couple more quick questions here before I let you go?
Sure.
So what if you had to tell yourself one, maybe two things, like your younger self? If you, Dan, could go back in time, like, Avengers Endgame style, what, with the sole purpose of telling your younger self something, what might that be, if anything?
Oh, well, two things come to mind.
Don't skydive.
Don't skydive. No. Two things come to mind. One is that my dad was right about a lot of things. And as you get older, I don't know if your parents say things to you and you go, I'm not sure if they're right or whatnot. But he's he's right about a lot of things. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing is that I just need to learn to, when I was younger, just to take a deep breath and just try to relax. And because I get so, sometimes we get so caught up in things and you get so stressed about things.
Yeah.
And, if you could just remember to just take a deep breath and try not to react, so, what I mean, as you get older, you kind of try to relax a little bit more. So.
No, I agree with both of those statements, Dan, especially the first one. Now that I do have kids, which I don't think it's necessary to appreciate your parents if you don't have kids, you know what I mean? But I certainly do kind of see, okay, and this isn't like, oh man, I don't want to be like my mom or my dad when I grow up.
No, it's just that when they give you advice, when you were younger, you were a little bit more naive and you saw things maybe just in a certain way, and Dad would say, maybe think about this, and as I've gotten older, as you've gotten older, you go, maybe he was right.
Yeah, they weren't as stupid as I thought they were. And what's kind of funny is, so I was late to this conversation that we had today because we, as a team, like to go out to lunch on Fridays. So I was out with the guys here at Black Swamp, and I was running late, and I was telling a story on the drive back to the shop, basically about my girls. Who I have two girls, 12 and 8, I think. I forget sometimes. I can remember their birthdays because they were born in 2007 and 2011. So I just remember 7/11, and then I'll never forget their whatever. Okay, so they think they're an authority on everything right now. So my wife and I it's like impossible to have a conversation with them sometimes. Like we're just trying to get a single point across, and they think they immediately interrupt and start like interjecting, what their thoughts are, what they heard at school and this and that and what their teacher said. And it's like, can you just give me 30 seconds of uninterrupted space so I can make my point and move on with the conversation? So
they should run for office.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, they did, Dan.
Here we go.
My yes, here we go is right.
Here we go.
My daughter, I found this out at conferences. My daughter was elected class mayor. Apparently they have like a fake little town, and it's it's kind of learning about civics and stuff like that. And she had to make a poster and campaign, and so she was elected class mayor earlier this year. So
give her $500 million more, and she can run for an office.
Well, she's doing basketball, so we've been working on a scholarship there. So I'm kind of hoping that comes through. But and then your second point, like staying relaxed, I consider that yes, sort of living in the moment more, like being more aware, like what's happening now, not necessarily what happened in the past and stressing out, or what could possibly happen in the future. So I've personally been kind of practicing more like just awareness, or like kind of trying to live more in the moment and what's happening right now. So I can definitely appreciate that, and not getting kind of stressed about what could or should have happened. My wife calls it "don't should on yourself." She's like, you shouldn't should on yourself. Oh, I should have done this, or I should have said that, or whatever. So that's something I'm working on as well. But all right, enough about me. You have anything else you want to talk about, Dan?
No, I've just actually been interested just listening to you talk. So.
Well, it took us a while to get there, but we got there, Dan. We got to me finally. So,
Right.
But
Black Swamp Percussion Podcasts by Tim Church,
featuring
for
Tim Church.
And by Tim Church.
Possibly a guest. But you have been a huge supporter and educator and Black Swamp artist for many years. So I appreciate that support and friendship specifically.
Thank you. Same here.
Yeah. So thanks. I appreciate it, and thanks for taking the time to talk.
Always. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Okay. See ya.
Okay. See ya.